Jeff's Superscript is brought to you by Black Cat Comics and Collectibles, in my opinion, the best comic shop and clubhouse on the internet. Make sure to follow them at Black Cat Burbank on Instagram and ask them about their Stray Cats Club for special perks. Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I take a look at all the new comic books coming out on either June 8th or 9th, 2021. And I ask myself the question, what one new comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book? I'm going to take a quick moment to ask all of you, if you wouldn't mind, to consider hitting the like button, and if you haven't already subscribed, to go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate all of you who hit the like button, who watch these videos week after week after week. Thank you so much for that. All right, let's move forward with the content of this video. First, by looking back to my pick from 2 weeks ago, which was Something is Killing the Children, issue number 16. And the question remains, was it a worthy pick to be my just one book pick of the week? And the answer is, yes. It's Something is Killing the Children. Of course it was. No, I mean, obviously, those of you who have been watching these videos know what a big fan of Something is Killing the Children that I am. For those of you that may have not watched these videos before, I'm a big fan of Something is Killing the Children. It's basically like my favorite book out right now. So yes, I have a little bit of a bias towards the book, and I did think that issue number 16 was great. But if I try to look at it from an outward perspective of not a fan, I gotta say it was really good. It was really entertaining. If I had never read the book before and I had jumped on at issue number 16, I would want to know more about the character of Erica Slaughter and where life is going to take her. As it is, as a fan of it, I already know what Erica Slaughter is all about as a adult. But now I've seen the beginning of her origin story, of how she became part of the House of Slaughter and the Order of St. George as a small child. Also, James Tynion IV, in his writing, did a fantastic job giving me a sense of the strength and the perseverance that apparently has always been present in Erica Slaughter. It was definitely present in the first 15 issues, and we get a sense of it right almost from the first panel of the first page in young Erica Slaughter in this issue number 16. If I had any kind of criticism for the issue, it's that I guess it didn't match my expectations. I thought there were going to be more first appearances and things like that in this book, but mostly it focused on the new relationship between Erica Slaughter and her new guardian, I guess as it is, Jessica, which totally makes sense now that I think about it in hindsight. I think a lot of this origin story is going to be about these two characters and the development of their relationship. So it makes sense that the first issue was 90% just the two of them. So it was a great story, an interesting story. I thought it was great as a fan and someone who has been reading the book this whole time, but I think it was also a great story for anybody that might be picking it up, starting with issue number 16, maybe planning on going back and reading the first 15 issues at some other time. I will continue to encourage people to read and pick up Something is Killing the Children. For those that I have encouraged, all of them have told me at the very least that they're like, it's pretty good. I am going to keep reading it. Which to me, if you read something once and you decide to keep reading it, that's a pretty good sign that it must be pretty decent. So I hope you've all had the chance to check it out, and I hope you're all enjoying it as well. All right, let's go ahead and move forward next by taking a look at my cover pick for this week. This was a tough week for me and my cover pick. At first, there was really nothing that jumped out at me, but then I did another kind of once-over looking at the covers, and I found this one, and I decided, all right, I'm going to go ahead and make this one my cover pick for the week. The book is Magic the Gathering, issue number 3, cover B, the Hidden Planeswalker variant. It says the artists are Jacob Rebelka, Christina Kalida, and Ariella Kristantina. Now, I don't know much about the Magic the Gathering series, so I can't speak on the subject of this cover or offer any kind of context about what is going on in this cover. All I can tell you is that I saw it and I was intrigued and drawn in, and I wanted to start taking a look at every detail in this cover and trying to decipher what's happening here, and I can't. But even still, it makes me interested in this character, and I can tell that there is a story going on here, even though I don't know what the story is because I have no context for it. I can tell that there is a story taking place here. So I find it, like I said, I find it interesting from a character standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint, but then also I just think that the art is very well done. I think the composition is really interesting and really cool. I keep going back and looking at this image and I keep thinking, yeah, that's pretty cool. For someone who's not a Magic the Gathering fan, it kind of makes me want to be and to want to know more about the world in this book and these characters. So to me, once again, that all reads as a really great cover, and that's why I had to go ahead and make Magic the Gathering issue number 3, cover B, the Hidden Planeswalker variant, my cover pick for this week. All right, let's go ahead and continue by taking a look at the books that were in contention for my just one book pick of the week. Usually I give 5 honorable mentions and then my pick. This week I'm going to give 6 honorable mentions. I'm cheating just a little bit, but there were things that I wanted to mention, even though this is kind of sorta a lackluster week. There's still some things that I wanted to make sure to put on your radar, but I'm going to move through them very quickly, so hopefully you will feel like there's the normal number of them instead of one extra. The first book I want to mention to you is a book called 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton. This is issue number 1 from Image Comics. Here's the description. For fans of Chew and Assassination Nation comes a new action mystery series from Eisner Award nominees Chris Schweitzer and Kyle Starks. The world's most unlikable action star has been found dead, and his previous TV sidekicks are looking to solve the mystery. But how can you catch a murderer when almost everyone hated the victim? Now these sidekicks are going to learn what it means to be the stars of the show. That is, if any of them survive the Stuntman War. Alright, this sounds a little bit silly, but it also sounds a little bit fun. So if you're looking for something new to check out this week that could be fun and maybe a little bit silly, this might be one for you. The next book I want to mention is Amazing Spider-Man issue number 68. Here's the description. It says, "The Chameleon Conspiracy continues. Spider-Man aims to get to the bottom of the Chameleon's plan, but the Foreigner takes his own aim." All right, so Amazing Spider-Man has been a book that I tried to jump on board, and it just didn't keep me. It didn't keep me. It was okay, but I love Spider-Man, but it really didn't keep my interest. I've also have a little bit of a bone to pick about how they're doing their storylines and how their storylines conclude in a giant-size special edition that's not part of the main numbered series. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it bothers me, so I've got a lot of problems with this series. The reason I mention it, though, is because of this The Foreigner character. It sounds like this is a new character. I tried to look up on Key Collector if this character existed before. There's no mention of this character on Key Collector, so either this character is a new character or was so inconsequential that it never made it to a character list on Key Collector. So if you know more about this character than I do, great. But you might want to keep an eye on this book. This might be a first appearance, and a first appearance is a Spider-Man book. I mean, that's not nothing to ignore, or something to ignore. So I just wanted to flag it potentially because of this new character. The next book I want to mention to you is kind of the reason that I did 6 honorable mentions instead of 5. It is Spider-Man, Spider Shadow, issue number 3 of a 5-part limited series from Marvel Comics. Here's the description of issue number 3. What if Peter Parker became Venom? The greatest enemies of Spider-Man have banded together, to take the new version of Spidey down. They must act fast as their numbers dwindle at the hands of Spider-Man. While some plan for his demise, others, like Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four, hope to save him. But is it too late to have the old Spider-Man back, or even Peter Parker? Alright, so if you've been watching these videos, you know I am a big fan of this series. This Spider-Man Spider Shadow book, the first 2 issues were fantastically done by writer Chip Zdarsky and artist Pasquale Ferry. It is really great storytelling. It is a what-if tale. In the truest sense. What If is a series from the past. It used to be in individual comic books, and now they're doing What If in small mini-series. And this one is so good. I highly recommend picking up. I don't care in what form, be it a second print, a third print, in trade paperback at some point. I highly recommend reading this series. The first 2 were so good, and I'm really looking forward to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and the 3rd one comes out this week. The next book I want to mention to you is Web of Spider-Man, issue number 1. This is another 5-issue limited series, also, of course, from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, scientist, troublemaker. Thanks to none other than Tony Stark, a new scientific research station for the teenage heroes of the Marvel Universe has just been completed, and Spider-Man just got an invitation to join. Working alongside some of your favorite faces from the MU and a whole bunch of awesome new gadgets, and with Iron Man keeping an eye on them, surely everything's going to go great for the heroes, right? Right? Face front, true believers, and treat yourself to the first issue in an adventure of the Worldwide Engineering Brigade. Okay, this is a new Spider-Man series. We have Amazing Spider-Man, we have Nonstop Spider-Man, now we have Web of Spider-Man. I don't know what to think about this book. Basically, I had to mention it because it's a brand new Spider-Man title. It is a limited series, once again, of 5 issues. So it might be willing to check out because the commitment is a small one. But I gotta tell you, nothing about this description makes me want to jump up and go, yay! The Spider-Man book that I'm finally going to be excited to read that isn't a What If Spider-Man book. But once again, it's new this week. It's Spider-Man. I had to mention it on my list. The next book I'm going to mention to you is XMen, issue number 21. Here is the description. The Heroes of Krakoa debut. It's a changing of the guard as the first X-Men team of Krakoa debuts. One era ends as a new one begins, and the handoff happens here. All right, so the X-Men are going to have a new team, the team of Krakoa. And X-Men, has always functioned at its best in a team format. I mean, basically, by definition, the X-Men are parts of a team working together. So now this is a new main X-Men team. Now, first team appearances, generally speaking, aren't very collectible, or I'm going to say like speckable. First team appearances don't tend to do really, really well on the secondary market. But this is the X-Men. So who knows, if you think about, you have the original X-Men team, and then you have the team that debuted in Giant Size X-Men #1. I mean, you have some pretty iconic groups there. So who knows, this could be the beginning of a new iconic group. So it might be something worth checking out and having on your radar. I don't know how they're doing it, but it's also my understanding that they're going to give you a new X-Men team, but then they're also going to let the readers choose an additional member of that new main X-Men team. So that could be kind of fun to kind of be part of that process in some way, shape, or form. Will you be able to nominate, or you can get a list of nominations? I don't know how it's going to work, but it could be entertaining. I'm an X-Men fan, so I'm interested in that. I at least wanted to flag that this new team is happening in the X-Men world, and it might be worth paying attention to. The next book that I want to mention to you is a book called Bunny Mask, issue number 1 from Aftershock Comics. Here is the description. A new horror series from the creator of the Eisner-nominated Colder. Sealed in a cave before the dawn of man, released by a crazed madman, Bunny Mask walks our world once more. But for what dark purpose does she use her unnatural powers? And what's her connection to Bea Foster, a young girl murdered by her father 14 years ago? In order to save his life and his sanity, one man will have to discover the truth of what waits behind the mask. Writer Paul Tobin and artist Andrea Moody unleash an eons-old legend upon an unsuspecting world, one that'll make your most horrific nightmare feel like a walk in the park. All right, well, this sounds pretty interesting to me. Sounds pretty cool. I like that they make it like eons old, like it's an ancient evil that's been released and on the world. You know, the whole kind of Bunny Mask look of it is a little bit kind of like, am I supposed to be taking this seriously, or is this tongue-in-cheek, or is this like, you know, I don't know how horrifying even, you know, a Bunny Mask is. But it does sound interesting. It does sound like original. It does sound like something that might be worth checking out. So, you know, similar kind of like, you know, the first book I mentioned, The Six Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton, is a new book this week if you're looking for something fun and maybe a little silly. This is a new book that if you're looking, Bunny Mask is a new book if you're looking for something a little maybe darker and mysterious and horror themed. But I still think it might be worth checking out. So once again, it's why I let you all know about it. All right. Let's move on to the last book that I am going to talk about this week, and it is my pick of the week. And like I said earlier in the video, this is not a really big week as far as I'm concerned. There are very few standouts, if any standouts this week. In fact, at one point when I was doing research for this video, I thought to myself, maybe I just won't have a pick this week. Maybe I'm just going to feature some books that are coming out, and I'll be like, hey, pick your own, you guys, this week. I'm not going to pick anyone for you. But then I thought, well, that's kind of a cop-out. There's got to be at least one book that I, Jeff, am personally excited about. One that if I could only buy one book, what would be the one book that I would buy? And this is a deeply personal choice for myself this week, as it has been in the past. The book I would buy this week, if I could buy just one book, is Far Sector, issue number 12 from DC. This is the final issue of Far Sector. Here's the description. When Joe Moline, I don't know how to pronounce her last name actually, Joe, left Earth for parts unknown, little did she know she'd end up becoming a Green Lantern at the farthest outpost in the known universe, dealing with a complex culture that was about to have its first murder in centuries. Investigating that death unearthed a lot of secrets and made her a lot of enemies. And it all comes to a head in this rousing final issue. Written by multiple Hugo Award winner N.K. Jemisin and drawn by Naomi co-creator Jamal Campbell, this epic space adventure is one you will want to read over and over again. Far Sector is a book that I have mentioned in videos past. Far Sector is one of the most slept on books out there right now. For some reason, it really never caught people's attention en masse. But I started reading Far Sector from the first issue because I am a Green Lantern fan. And I was looking for a cool Green Lantern story to read. I've sampled a handful of the Green Lantern books that have come out in the past few years, and none of them are really doing anything for me. But Far Sector is. It is a really cool story about a civilization of three different races and cultures that have historically been at odds and been at war with each other, and they're trying to live together, but they're doing it by basically suppressing what it means to their emotions. You know, it literally is what they're doing. They're suppressing their emotions, but it's like, imagine what that would be like long term, and the repercussions of that have manifested in this civilization in some really cool and interesting ways. So not only has this story been a very well told and original a lot of ways, you know, story where it speaks to these races, these alien races condition, but it also speaks to the human condition, and it speaks to how our emotions can be our greatest weakness, but they can also be our greatest strength. There's also a socio-political aspect to Far Sector, which I think sometimes that type of thing can be heavy-handed and it can overpower things like good storytelling. But for me, the writer N.K. Jemisin has found the sweet spot for socio-political sentiment in this Far Sector story by having it be there, but by having it not be the focus. We also have our Green Lantern Joe, whose last name I have a difficult time pronouncing, who is a really cool Green Lantern. She has she's unique. She has a strong moral code. She has a strong opinion about what's right. And she is just an original. And that's saying a lot in any kind of storytelling. But she's also an original as a Green Lantern, as she's still kind of like figuring out what it means and to be a Green Lantern. She also has a unique power ring that doesn't need to be charged. It self-charges. She doesn't have to go to a power battery and, you know, recite the pledge and charge her ring. But that means that she has to use her powers sparingly, because she could run out of juice and then she'll have to wait for it to charge itself back up again. So there's a lot of things going on in this story, and I've talked to people who have been like, have you checked out Far Sector? They're like, no. That's the majority of people. But the people that I have talked to who are reading Far Sector are like, it is really good. And people have really been missing out by not reading this story. So, I mean, let's face facts. If you're not reading Far Sector right now, and I'm talking to you about issue number 12, and you're like, wow, Jeff, that does sound really good and really interesting. Your enthusiasm for it is infectious, and I want to check it out myself, but it's the final issue. Yeah, you're probably not going to go back and find all 11 previous issues, which you could, and for fairly cheaply as well. Issue number 1 is above cover price, but I don't think it's that expensive. I think it's somewhere in the $15 range. And considering it's the first appearance of a Green Lantern, a new Green Lantern, that's really surprising. And I think that this Green Lantern, Joe, has a lot of future in the greater Green Lantern storylines. So you might benefit from going back and picking up the first 11 issues, especially the first issue. But that might be a little bit difficult. So, or a little bit more work than it's worth. So I'm sure there's going to be a trade paperback for this title that's coming out soon. It might be one to keep an eye on. Once I hear about it at all, I'll probably end up flagging it in one of these videos for all of you to check out if you're interested. But anyways, it's been a great series. I've enjoyed it a lot, and that's why the final issue, I'm sad to see it end, but the final issue coming out this week was the book that I'm most excited about reading. It's the book that I'm going to read first, and it is the book that I would buy if I could buy just one book this week. All right, as always, thank you all so much for watching this video. I'll ask you again to hit the like button if you're interested, and to subscribe by punching this guy in the face if you haven't subscribed, and you might be interested in doing that as well. Thank you all once again so much. I will see you in the next video.